I came across this and feels it good to let you see it too.
I have hated my father for the last 15 years, and here's why. So my dad left when I was in class 5 and my sister was in class 3. And I can remember this because my sister was moving from lower primary classes to upper primary classes, and I kind of attached this memory to that transitional period. Now, when my dad left, I could kind of understand it because he had been fighting a lot with my mom. But the person who couldn't understand it quite well was my sister. My sister was very inquisitive about it, and she kept asking about my dad a lot. She would ask stuff like, when is daddy coming back home? When can we call daddy? When can we go see daddy? Is daddy coming back home anytime soon? So some of these things that she asked would like take my mother off. But at some point in time, she would lose it and say very mean things to my sister. She would say stuff like, kama babako angekuwa hapa, haungekuwa unashinda ukimuulizia. Or sometimes she would say, ama utatoka huko nje ukatafute huyo babako huko Nairobi kwenye alienda kwa wake. So I felt like these things were wrong, but I was also quite young. There was nothing I could do about it. Now, fast forward to class 8. We were not a struggling family, but we obviously had familial problems. So every time we would have these familial problems, my mother would make sure that we know the reason why we are struggling as much as we are at that point in time is because my father was not there. And if he was there, we probably wouldn't be facing it as rough as we are. So slowly by slowly, I started resenting my dad. Before, it never bothered me, but now I had started resenting him in a way. Now, during this class 8 period, we had a small surname issue, and I asked my mom whether my dad could come and help us out, and she was like, kama baba yako angekuwa anataka kukaa, hangeenda in the first place. Now, fast forward to Form 1, my dad comes through, he takes me to school, he gives me some piece of advice, but the whole time I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, what are you telling me? You are not even there this whole time. So the resentment is beginning to show. But when I get to Form 3, the desire to ask my dad this question gets stronger, and I told my mother that. So that was the moment she flipped out. She got really mad. She got really angry at me. She threatened to kick me out of the house, asking me stuff like, where was your dad when we were struggling? Where was your dad when you were being chased away for school fees? Where was your dad when you were almost sleeping hungry? And this kind of got to me, but it didn't reduce the desire for me to want to meet my dad and ask him these questions. That time I never got to meet my dad because my mom completely took hold of that situation, and I couldn't. Fast forward to when I finished Form 4. I'm going to campus, and campus served as a perfect opportunity for me to want to look for my dad again, because I was living alone, I was living far from home, and I could ask around without worrying about my mom. So I started asking around about my dad from his brothers. So eventually I picked up enough information for me to know where he was living. So I remember this was in my second year, and I decided I'm going to see him. After a while of contemplating what I would ask him when I met him, so I get some liquid courage and I go to his place in Kariobangi South. He lives in a 1-bedroom house, and I knock on the door, and the moment he saw me, he knew. He didn't even ask. He just told me, come in, and we sat. So I didn't know how to bring it up, but when I did, I gave him a piece of my mind. I asked him a lot of questions. I wasn't really considering a lot of respectful words, so I asked him a lot. So he just sat there and looked at me and looked at me and looked at me and listened and listened. And then finally when he spoke, he said, you can't go home like this. So you just sleep. We'll talk in the morning. Now in the morning, I did not know how to reignite that conversation because nilikuwa nimechoma. I had said a lot of things that you typically would not say to someone who you consider your father. So he wakes up, we take breakfast, and he brings up the conversation. So now he tells me his side of the story. He tells me that the reason why he left was because he found out that I was not his biological child and my sister was. And he only found out way later. So he told my mom that he would rather not stay in that house, in that environment, and would rather leave, but he would still keep providing for us. Albeit that I'm not his biological child, he feels like he had raised me enough for him to continue providing. So he continued providing, and all those times that I would get sent home for school fees and I would go back to school, it was him who kept on sending the money, because he was not aware of when people are being sent for fees, because the parent of contact was my mom. He was always there, just never really there. The whole time I spent hating my dad, he was always there providing for us. And now I realize that I've hated my father for the last 15 years. But now that I know the whole story, I really don't know where to take this information, and I don't know how to redirect my anger. So that is the story of a guy called Andrew.
Stop parental alienation. You damage the one you said you love. and who you ought to help grow to a better adult.